Victor Harlan didn't remember the crash. He remembered turbulence, a blinding flash across the viewport, then the sickening weightlessness that didn't stop. When he woke up, his shoulder was dislocated, his ribs ached with every breath, and the wreckage of the survey shuttle was half buried in the purple sand of some nameless planet. He staggered out, boots sinking into the dry, shifting surface. One of the engines had sheared off mid-air and carved a trench 20 yards long. There were no other survivors. "Great," Victor muttered. "Day 47 of this mission, and now I'm Robinson freaking Crusoe." The first week was survival. He rationed the water cache, scavenged the emergency medkit, and made shelter from the shuttle canopy. The nights were freezing, the days blistering, but he adapted. He always adapted. He'd been a firefighter before joining the Interstellar Survey Corps, and before that, a mechanic in Detroit. He knew how to keep things going when everything was broken. He saw the first sign of something else on day 9. A series of perfectly circular holes bored into the hard stone ridge above his camp. They hadn't been there before. They were too symmetrical to be natural. Victor climbed up, shoulders still stiff, and traced his fingers along the edges. That night something watched him. He didn't see it, but he heard the faint scrape of something large and slow circling the perimeter. The feeling of eyes heavy, intelligent on his back. He kept his knife close and didn't sleep. On day 11, it showed itself. It was tall, taller than any human, with a translucent skin that shimmered like oil on water. It didn't walk, it floated, barely grazing the ground. Its limbs were long with too many joints, and its face was wrong in subtle ways that made his stomach twist. It didn't speak. It just stared. Victor stood his ground, hand on his knife. He said, "You want to talk or just do the creepy stare thing?" The creature tilted its head. Then, in a voice that sounded like gravel rolling over glass, it replied, "Observe." The ground beneath Victor crumbled. He fell into a chamber, smooth walls, artificial lighting, too bright. He hit the floor hard, pain flaring up his left leg and through his spine. When he tried to stand, something hissed and a searing bolt of electricity ripped through his ribs. He collapsed again. The alien descended through an opening in the ceiling. It no longer floated. It walked now, deliberately, with a slow, theatrical gait. Victor coughed blood. He felt something sharp under his ribs. Maybe cracked, maybe broken. He spat onto the polished floor. "If this is your way of saying hello, it sucks." The creature didn't respond. Over the next hour, it stripped him, not just his clothes, but every layer of comfort, safety, and control. Metal restraints clicked around his wrists and ankles. Machines scanned him, poked him, drew blood. One injected something that made his vision blur and sweat pour from his skin. He clenched his teeth. "Still not talking, huh? Just gonna play mad scientist?" It pressed something into his thigh. The pain was immediate and total, like his nerves turned inside out. He couldn't scream. He just gasped, mouth open, chest heaving. "You are fragile," it said, clinical, "yet you persist." Victor didn't answer. He couldn't. His throat was dry and his jaw locked tight. The alien turned away, tapping on a suspended screen. It looked like a surgeon reviewing a patient chart. There was no malice in its movements, just curiosity. "You endure beyond predicted tolerance levels," it said. "Explain," Victor muttered, "because I'm too damn stubborn to die." The alien returned. A small blade extended from one of its arms. It pressed it against Victor's forearm and sliced slowly, precisely. Blood welled and ran down his arm. He gritted his teeth. "You do not panic," the alien observed. Victor's voice was a whisper now. "I'm terrified, I just don't give you the satisfaction." The lights dimmed. A second alien entered, shorter, with a hunched posture and a face hidden behind a translucent membrane. It carried a thin rod that crackled at the tip. Victor tensed. The first alien spoke. "This one will test deeper thresholds." The rod made contact with his abdomen. Muscles seized, his back arched. When it stopped, he slumped forward, trembling. His lips were blue from oxygen deprivation. "Still conscious?" the shorter one asked. Victor forced a weak grin. "I've had worse hangovers." They repeated the process for 3 days. No food, minimal water, pain in carefully measured doses. They monitored his heart rate, his neural activity, his hormonal shifts. They documented everything, but Victor didn't scream, he passed out, he vomited, he shook. But he didn't scream. On the fourth day, they broke his leg, no warning. A sudden impact like a hammer to the shin. He heard the crack before the pain reached his brain. Then he screamed. Once, short, raw, then silence. They gave him no splint, no painkillers. Just left the bone misaligned beneath the skin, swelling and blackening. You are deteriorating, one said. Victor looked up through bleary eyes. No, I'm changing. He didn't know why he said it, but it was true. Something inside him had shifted. The pain didn't control him anymore. He couldn't stop the damage, but he could control who he became under it. They didn't understand. Not yet. On day 5, they brought in an audience. 10 other aliens, each wearing a different emblem or insignia filed into an upper gallery. They watched from behind glass. It felt like a tribunal. The tall alien addressed them. Subject demonstrates resistance beyond biological projections. No compliance, no psychological surrender. Observe final phase. Victor was strapped upright now, his legs still broken and untreated. His ribs felt worse, breathing shallow hurt less. He was hallucinating. He saw his father's face in the ceiling tiles, heard his sister's laugh in the humming lights, but he was still there. The final phase involved a device that clamped around his skull and emitted low-frequency pulses. It wasn't pain, it was worse. It was erasure. Thoughts dissolved like sugar in water. Memories turned to static. He fought by holding on to one thing. Name, he whispered. The alien paused. What? My name, say it. The alien tilted its head. You are Subject 7. No, Victor said, louder now. Say my name. It hesitated. Victor Harlan, he smiled through split lips. Still me. The machine powered down. The gallery above was silent. The tall alien spoke in its language, a series of vibrating tones, and the others responded in kind. Some left. One stayed. It approached Victor, scanning him again. You are not what we expected, it said. Victor coughed. No one ever expects Detroit. The alien didn't laugh, it just stared. You were not broken, you were altered. Victor nodded slowly. We don't break, we become something else. The alien touched his shoulder. A brief electric pulse passed between them, then it turned and left. Later, Victor woke up in a different room. His leg had been set, his ribs bandaged. Roman 4 lines fed hydration into his veins. No restraints, no machines. A voice spoke from above. You are free to go. Transport will arrive in 5 planetary cycles. He sat up slowly, pain still sharp but manageable. No one came back. He spent the next few days walking, limping around the facility. It was vast, sterile, and mostly automated. No guards, no escorts. He found a central terminal and accessed a data feed. It showed recordings of him under torture, analyzed frame by frame. The final report titled him as Adaptive Subject Class Omega. The last line read, not broken, reconfigured. Transport arrived on day 10. A black, smooth craft with no markings, a ramp extended. Victor limped aboard. Inside was a woman, human, dressed in interstellar core uniform. She looked up from a tablet. You're Victor, he nodded. Name's Leora Grant, I'm your evac officer. He slumped into a seat. About time, she looked him over. You're lucky. They usually don't let humans out alive. Victor closed his eyes. They didn't break me. No, she said. They made you something else. He didn't reply. As the ship lifted off, Victor looked down through the viewport at the facility disappearing below. He didn't feel proud. He didn't feel strong. He felt changed. And that, more than anything, was what they hadn't understood. The ship's cabin hummed with a low, constant vibration. Victor stared at the wall across from him, not quite registering its color or shape. His hands were wrapped in gauze. The bandages were clean, but beneath them his knuckles were swollen and stiff. He flexed them slowly. The skin tugged. No one said anything for a while. Leora adjusted one of the overhead controls. We'll reach the relay station in 87 hours. You'll be transferred from there to Earth Medical Command. Victor didn't look up. You ever been tortured by a sentient jellyfish? No, she said, but I got stabbed in the neck by a flurnic once. They secrete a protein that makes your blood forget it's supposed to clot. He gave a dry laugh. That sounds charming. Leora tossed a nutrition bar into his lap. It bounced off his thigh. Eat something, you're in a catabolic crash. Your muscles are burning themselves to keep your heart running. He stared at the wrapper. They didn't give me much to chew on. You're not chewing now either. He peeled it open with slow fingers. His jaw protested the first bite. What's Earth Medical Command going to do? Run tests. Poke the trauma like it's a science fair project? They're not interested in your trauma, of course not. They're interested in what's different about you now. He stopped chewing. So they're not fixing me, they're dissecting me. She sat down opposite him, folding her arms. They don't need to dissect you. They'll just scan your brain a few hundred times and ask you questions until you start dreaming in data streams. He finished the bar. What happens if I don't cooperate? They'll be disappointed, but they won't force you. You're too valuable now. He leaned back against the cool wall, eyes half-lidded. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. The ship's lights dimmed slightly, simulating evening. Leora stood and walked to a small console embedded in the bulkhead. She tapped a few commands and turned back. You've got about 6 hours before your next vitals check. Rest. Victor didn't argue. He woke later. How much later? He wasn't sure, shaking with cold. The cabin temperature hadn't changed, but his body had. His teeth chattered. Sweat soaked the back of his shirt, and every joint screamed with a dull ache. He tried to sit up. The room swam. Leora was back in the chair, watching him. She didn't bother asking how he felt. Your blood chemistry's been destabilizing since departure, she said. We think they injected something that's metabolizing on a delay. Victor's lips were pale. That's the nicest way anyone's ever said you're dying. You're not dying, you're adjusting. To what? She opened a case beside her and pulled out a syringe. To whatever they left inside you. He eyed the needle. Is that going to help? It'll slow the reaction down, give your system time to recalibrate. I thought humans didn't recalibrate. She crouched beside him. You do now. He offered his arm. She injected the dose without ceremony. The warmth spread fast, melting the worst of the shaking. His breathing eased. Victor rubbed his eyes. You said I'm valuable. What does that actually mean? She capped the syringe and returned it to the case. They've tortured other species, hundreds. Most break, some fight back. A few even survive, but none of them change, he frowned. What do you mean, change? I mean, your neural maps don't match your pre-mission scans. Your pain thresholds, your response to trauma, your emotional regulation, they're all out of spec, he blinked. So I'm defective. No. You're modular, he laughed, but it was a tired, bitter sound. Great, I'm the IKEA version of a man now. She didn't smile. That's not a joke to them. The ship's intercom buzzed. A mechanical voice announced a minor course correction. They both ignored it. Victor leaned forward, elbows on his knees. So what now? They give me a medal, a lecture circuit. Maybe let me join a think tank. Leora stood again. They'll offer you a contract. His gaze sharpened. Contract. Something between ambassador and weapon. They want to know if you can do it again. He was silent for a long time. Eventually, he said, You ever seen someone come back from something like this? Once. She didn't last long. What happened? She wanted to be normal again. He nodded. That's not on the table, is it? No, he sank back down. This time he didn't try to sleep. He just stared at the ceiling until the lights shifted again. 2 days passed. He ate when he was told, drank when reminded, and submitted to the vitals checks like a machine. His body was mending slowly. The leg had been stabilized, but the bone still ached when he put weight on it. His ribs were less tender, though coughing sent a bolt of pain through his side. The worst was his skin, raw in places, healing in others, hypersensitive all over. He'd stopped reacting to the discomfort. It was just background noise now. Late on the 3rd day, Leora brought him a different meal, something warm and rich smelling. He sat cross-legged on the bench, eating in silence. She watched. You're stabilizing. Feels like I'm plateauing. That's what they want. Stable means repeatable. He set the bowl down. You keep saying they. Who are they? Leora didn't answer right away. She tapped her fingers on the metal table. There's a council, not ours, not fully alien either. A panel of species that oversee the more experimental aspects of galactic relations. You were part of one such experiment. Victor's brow furrowed. I thought it was a crash. It became something else. He looked away. So I was a case study, not exactly. But once they realized what you were becoming, they leaned into it. He exhaled sharply. They let it happen. They observed. That's what they do. He stood, testing his balance. The leg held. Barely. Does Earth know? Leora nodded. They were informed once the first neural variance reports came in. He laughed, short and sharp. Of course, and they want to harvest whatever's left of me. They want to understand it. Same thing. She didn't argue. Later that night, Victor found the observation port. It was a narrow slit above the navigation deck, barely wide enough for a head and shoulders. He leaned against the frame and stared out at the stars. The galaxy sprawled in every direction, a glittering web of cold light and impossible distances. Somewhere out there, a room still existed where he'd been cut open and studied like a lab rat, and yet here he was. Leora's voice came from behind him. You could run. He didn't turn. Where? There are systems that don't answer to the council. Places where you could live anonymously. I'd last a week. Maybe, maybe not. He considered that, then, quietly, part of me doesn't want to leave it behind. That's the part they're studying. He turned to face her. What about you? Why are you really here? She leaned against the bulkhead beside him. I volunteered. Why? Because I wanted to see if it was true, if a human could go through all that and come out different. He met her gaze. And she nodded slowly. You didn't come out, you're still in it. You just carry it differently now. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Eventually, Victor looked back at the stars. Tell them I'll talk, but I choose where. And how? I'll relay that. And Leora? Yeah, if they try to strip this out of me to put it in someone else, they won't succeed. He nodded. Still, make sure they know what happens if they try. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The relay station orbiting the gas giant was shaped like a flattened ring, its inner curve studded with docking bays and antenna arrays that jutted out like insect legs. The transport ship docked without ceremony. No trumpets, no salutes. Just a hiss of atmospheric equalization and a silent green light blinking over the airlock. Victor stepped out slowly, his gait still uneven. The gravity here was slightly lower than standard Earth norm, which helped. Leora followed a pace behind, her posture rigid, eyes scanning the corridor. No one greeted them. The station seemed mostly automated, the kind of place important things happened without anyone admitting they did. They were led by a silent guidance drone, no voice, just a shifting blue ring on its top shell that pulsed whenever it wanted them to turn. The halls were sterile but not cold, the kind of clean that didn't invite comfort. At the end of the corridor, a door ear-eyed open into a wide room with a single chair, a low table, and a screen embedded in the far wall. No guards, no restraints. No visible cameras, though Victor knew they were there. He dropped into the chair without waiting for instructions. Leora spoke quietly. They'll initiate contact when they're ready. Any idea who they is this time? No. He tilted his head back, eyes closed. Figures. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then the screen flickered to life. A face appeared, not human, not exactly alien either. A hybridized construct, high cheekbones, symmetrical features, skin like weathered bronze. Neutral. Designed to soothe. Victor Harlan, it said, we appreciate your willingness to engage. You've got 5 minutes, he said. After that, I walk. You're free to leave at any point, but we believe you'll want to hear what we've learned. He folded his arms. I'm listening. The image shifted. Not a person now, but diagrams, neural scans, biochemical overlays, skeletal stress maps. They weren't labeled in any Earth language. Didn't need to be. Victor recognized his own body on the screen, his brain, his tissue, his fracture lines. What you endured, the voice continued, should have resulted in systemic collapse. Your organs entered failure thresholds multiple times, yet reversed course without external intervention. Your immune response erratic but self-correcting. Your neural architecture now exhibits patterns not previously observed in Homo sapiens. Victor raised an eyebrow. So I'm a medical anomaly. You are a functional anomaly, the voice clarified. You adapted not only physically but cognitively. Your capacity for resilience now includes proactive restructuring. You rebuild differently each time you're damaged. Sounds exhausting. It may be, but it is also unprecedented. Victor tapped the table with one finger. What do you want from me? We want to understand the threshold. To replicate it if possible, not by force, with your cooperation. You want me to volunteer for more of what they did. No, we want to study what comes after, he leaned forward. What if I say no, you can return to Earth, live a quiet life, we will not pursue you? He stared at the screen. And if I say yes, you will work with us, on your terms, you will not be subjected to harm, you will help define the parameters. Leora shifted behind him, he glanced at her. Is this real? She nodded once. As real as anything gets in this part of space. He turned back to the screen. Then I have conditions. Name them. First, I'm not a lab rat, no cages, no needles unless I approve them. Second, no one else goes through what I did. Ever, you want to learn, you learn from me, not by making new experiments, accepted. Third, I want access to all data about my case. Everything, even what you scrubbed. There was a pause. Then, granted, Victor stood. Then let's get this over with. The screen darkened. A panel slid open in the wall, revealing a small door. Leora walked ahead this time, checking the space before he followed. The room was clinical but not unfriendly. 2 padded chairs, a round table, a projection node in the center. A medtech human stood waiting. She wore no insignia, no rank. You're here voluntarily, she said. You can leave at any time. Victor sat. Let's start with the brain scans. I want to see what changed. The tech nodded. The projection node lit up, displaying a rotating 3D scan of his brain. This is your pre-mission baseline, she said, pointing to a section near the hippocampus. Standard memory consolidation. Now watch. The image shifted. The same brain, but with dense, lattice-like structures branching across regions not typically associated with memory. New pathways, redundant systems. You created fallback routes, she explained. When trauma hit the primary memory centers, your brain rerouted. It didn't just recover, it improved. Improved, Victor muttered, like I'm some kind of software patch, closer to an organic contingency framework. Your cognition isn't just resilient, it's anticipatory. You brace for damage before it happens. And your pain response, it's compartmentalized. Not numbed, just filed, he stared at the model. Does that mean I feel less? No, you feel it differently, like pain is information, not warning. He sat back, letting that settle. Leora spoke. So what do you do with that? The tech hesitated. Nothing yet. The risk is assuming it's universally beneficial. There are trade-offs. Your emotional responses are blunted. Empathy markers are diminished. You process social cues slower than before. You're not less human, but you're selectively human. Victor looked at his own brain spinning in midair. So I'm optimized, that's what you're telling me. More like specialized. You adapted to survive a specific kind of stress. But outside of that context, there could be side effects, he nodded. Like not knowing how to be around people anymore, possibly. He stood and walked to the wall. There was no window, just a mat panel, but he leaned there anyway. I don't want to be a weapon, he said. I don't want to be a symbol either. I just want to be a man who got through something. The tech shut off the projection. Then that's what we record. Not if you spin it into propaganda, we won't. He turned around. I'll help, but not forever. You get 1 month. After that, I walk, Leora nodded. I'll make sure that's in the contract. He looked at her. You staying, for now? Why? Because I think you're still changing, and I want to see what you become when you're not surviving anymore, he chuckled. Hope it's not just a bitter old man with a limp and a file full of brain scans. Could be worse. 3 weeks passed. Victor underwent controlled testing, not painful, not invasive, just observation. He walked through simulations designed to trigger stress, and each time his response was faster, cleaner, more detached. They monitored his sleep. His dreams were abstract, full of geometry and motion, almost no narrative. He didn't mind. He felt clearer when he woke. On the final day, he sat in the same room with the projection table. The tech whose name he'd finally learned was Dr. Alin Reyes handed him a small data crystal. "Everything we collected, yours to keep," he pocketed it. "Anything I should know, you're still evolving, slowly, but the structural changes are stabilizing. Will it stop?" "No, but it'll plateau," he stood. "Good, I'm done being everyone's miracle." Leora met him at the exit corridor. "They'll offer you a job before you leave. I'll say no. They'll ask again later," he smiled. "Then I'll say no again, just with more conviction." They walked together to the dock. A new ship waited, civilian, unbranded, small enough to be ignored. The pilot didn't look up as they approached. "No ceremony, no press." Victor paused at the ramp. Leora looked at him. "What now?" "I find somewhere quiet. I learn how to live with this brain of mine." She nodded. "You'll be back eventually." "Maybe." He stepped aboard. The door sealed behind him. The ship lifted gently and banked away, leaving the ring behind. Victor watched the station shrink in the viewport, then disappear entirely. He sat back, closed his eyes, and let himself feel bored for the first time in months. It felt like peace.